Hey everyone, Khan once again, and welcome back to the next anime review for Anime Month. And next, I'll be reviewing of the 2022 series of the show of the series of Akiba Maid War. Now, Akiba Maid War it's an original anime series which there's no novels or manga that was based upon, so it's an original series. And watching this series, which I have been watching for a while, and I enjoy the series. It's a fun it's a fun series. It's over the top, definitely. It's over the top. Because it's a black comedy show, but also in a gang, basically a gangster. It's a gangster show, but with maids. That's basically what it is. It's a gangster show but with maids, with comedy as well. So, and it does have a high ratings. It has a 7.3 in IMDb. It does have a 4.4 out of 5 on the rating on Crunchyroll. So, but it's over the top, but it's fun though. And so as for the characters, it's set in 1999 in the Akihabara prefecture, or Akiba, where they have all these maid cafes are, right. But in this alternate version, it's nothing but a lot of gangster violence, or shootings of between the rivals of these maid cafes, and opens up in like 12 years beforehand. I think it's 12 years, or I think it's 14 years beforehand. So because we have one of our main characters, a young a maid named Ronko. Her mentor basically is shot and killed by a maid. And so then fast forward until the year 1999, we have a teen girl by the name of Nagome, 17 years old, and she moved to Akiba because she always wanted to dream of being a maid working at a maid cafe. So there's a whole bunch of maid cafes, which found there are two rival types of maids cafes. There's the Creature Land, which it's maids dressed up like as animals, right? There's different types of maid cafes where each one has a different type of maid, right? Like bears or sheep, those type of animals, right? For each type of separate cafes. And there's the other rival cafe that is the maid alien cafe, where they dress like with maids of kind of like alien type maids. She's one going to the one that's called the cafe that's called the Oinky Doink Cafe, which the maids are dressed like with pigs, right? And she's very excited to join and meet with the three members of the staff. You have a Shipion, who's like this tan girl, like kind of like one of those gal types, right? And you have Yumichi, who's also one of the popular maids at the cafe, right? And then you got the manager, um, yeah, Yugeshki. She's the manager, and they also among the staff they also have a panda, which is the mascot of the place of Yuka Chimachi. There's the name. But you'll find out more about that panda later, though. But it's a person in a panda suit, though. So she's very excited. She's get to wear this cute maid outfit, and also among the staff that's also hired is Ronko, who's who's 35, but later in the episode she is celebrating her 36th birthday. So overall, they say she's a 36-year-old maid, and which she was the one that we saw in the beginning. Her a younger version of her, where her mentor got gunned down. So, and we should also find out the Oinko Doink Cafe is the same original tea house where she originally worked at, right? Because there's this ramen shop that's like below the place. It's been there for a long time, at the same time, with the same owner who works there, who probably knows the place and knows Ronco and all that stuff. So, excuse me. And so, but thing is, a Oinkadoink in this whole Creatureland saga of the maid cafes, Oinky Doink is at the bottom of the totem pole. You know, that place has been ridiculed, criticized. All the other maid cafes despise Oinky Doink. You know, so, and also of course owes a lot of money, which is the one guy who works for the Creatureland is that debt collector guy. And so, the manager sends Nagome give this a letter to a rival cafe named was a Woo Moonbeam, is where these maids dress up like as alien rabbits. And Ronko goes with her, and they go there. They see, which is not really. We see like the dark turn that all these cafes are not as what they appear to be, and we see one of the maids being forced to cut one of her pigtails off. And then in the letter they give to her is just, a way to antagonize the maid cafe. And so then all of a sudden Ronco just pulls out a gun and shoots the leader of the place in the head. We see all this blood spurt out all over Nagome. She was wearing a bib though. Like at first, because she's in shock, she doesn't know what just happened. Right? She's like, "Oh, I got some blood. I still have my bib on, And so, and Ronco's like, come on, let's get out of here. And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then all those other maids just start just going after her, and this is where all the over top stuff happens, where Ronco's just shooting all these maids, blood everywhere, and while the back of the Oinky Doink, Yamichi is just starts singing to the beats of when Ronco's is just shooting all these maids, and Nagomi's just standing there all stunned, And so from then on, it's been a lot of episodes. It's nothing but shooting, all maids just shooting each other basically for pretty much the whole entire series. Everybody's getting a lot of maids getting shot. And so first, she wants to leave, but she decides to stay. And from then also with Ronco, her character, Nagome develops a bond friendship with Ronco. At first she looks all with a serious face, but we see that later on that Ronco is enjoying working there. She later calls her home, and getting involved with all these instances with all these rival maid cafes, and also with Nagome, she also befriends a girl who works for a rival maid alien cafe named Narula. And it was a sad moment where because she develops this friendship with her and tells her, hey, why don't you just form a sisterhood between the two of you, where the two of them becomes sisters. Now, which they do, like they exchange, like they drink from the same ramen bowl, I guess. And they give each other's name tags so that these two are sworn sisters. And also, with Ronco, she knows because she also formed a sisterhood with another maid that worked at the time where she was working at the tea house by the name of Nagi, who basically, it turns out this girl, Nagi, she worked years ago, she worked the same cafe as Ronco, but now she's the head of all of the Creatureland, she's the head of all the Creatureland cafes. And so, which she also despises Oinky Doink. And let alone she resents Ronco because we have a flashback towards towards the end, we see where young Ronko and Nagi, right, and where their mentor, right, took her in back when she was younger, and she did kind of like she think that all the maid cafes were basically uh were violent, right? She wanted that, and see which one was a better one or whatever. But when Rongo came in, she kind of like the leader of their mentor was the head of was the head of all this violent stuff though. But when Rongo came in, kind of enlightened their mentor, right, and distanced himself from not becoming violent anymore. And Nagi didn't like that, which later revealed later on she hired that one maid to order to hit on her, and because basically making her turn soft because of Ronko, and she resents Ronko for that. And we also have other characters as well, like this one girl who just got out of prison, because Ronko also served time in prison as well. So, but we also have this other girl. What was it, the Crimson? This one girl, the Crimson something. I forget the name was the Crimson. She's this maid, who works for a maid alien, right? She gets out of prison. She realizes that a maid alien has become completely different while she was in prison. She doesn't like that either. She believes that the creature land should be crushed, and so she wants to return the maid alien to its former glory. Being the most violent and the best out of the whole maid prefecture. And so, because upon learning that that Narula swore a sisterhood to a maid from a rival cafe, sadly though, she ends up getting Narula killed because of her actions, which they still not that to tell the Nagome and Ronko not to interfere because it's her problem, not theirs. So, but Narula dies, and Nagomi is heartbroken because of that. She tries to quit working as a ninja cafe, and we found these other characters, these three guys, which later one of them is killed because she supports Oinku Doink and Nagome, so one of them gets killed because of that. And with the two guys, they have no choice but to can't have anything to do with them, so they leave. But we see that until later in the future, which in 2018 we see those two guys again, but much older now, and so we'll get, but much older though. But they plan to the Orchid plans to fight these maids, and so they met with one thing they know, they've managed to fend them off. And so, what's her name? The Crimson. I'll say Crimson for short. She heads back to the maid alien and saying, "Hey, the current head of the maid alien and the other maids, they don't need her anymore." So they just basically Swiss cheese her. Literally, she's been littered full of holes and still standing, bleeding out all over. Yeah, that's the if you wanted the definition of Swiss cheese, that's what she has become. She's basically Swiss cheese. And then they try to negotiate with Creature Land by having this baseball game. Hijinks ensues. And then there's this guy who goes to regular. Oh, I also forgot to mention there's this Russian girl who eventually joins Oinku Doink by the name of Zoya. Because they have a boxing match between with her and Ronko. Because in order to make money, for the manager to make money, they wanted to have Ronko to throw the fight, but she doesn't. But Zoya loses, but she eventually she joins the Winko Doing Cafe as well. So, and but again back to what I was saying, there's this guy who comes in who regularly visits Ronko. Turns out this guy is like I think he's a hitman. I think because there was which leads to other things as well. It turns out she's a guys who originally had a hit years ago. He had a hit on this one maid, which he failed to kill. Right. Turns out the maid he was supposed to kill was the one who killed Ronko's mentor, and also reveals that the panda is that maid who killed Ronko's mentor, and in which she reveals herself to her that I'm the one who killed you, and she does try to apologize, but Ronko does let her live. She shoots the panda helmet in the head though, so she lets her live though. But yeah, that's her in the panda outfit, the one who killed Ronko's mentor. So he lets her show she lets her live. But the going back with the guy, because the reason why the one of them panda, because she says he was only there as the hire to kill you, not to fall, not to be not because he's in love with you or wants her to go away with you to leave. So it turns out she's the panda. Yoko Kamichi shoots him because she knows that she knows that she tells Ronko it's all a trick though, so she goes in heads and kills him anyway. And so after all, they had they had this big standoff with all the maids right towards the end, and then turns out, sad to say, after all this, that Ronko wanted to be happy because she knows that she has to settle things with Nagi, right? And she tells her not to leave Oinky Doink alone, and will pay a whole lot more money, in order to be left alone, right? Leave the cafe, which she calls her home, to be left alone. But Nagi still resents her, but she lets him go though. And then afterward, while shopping, a maid comes out and stabs Ronko, and sadly Ronko dies in Nagomi's arms. So now she sets off to find the person who killed her, but she ends up getting beaten up by the other maids, and then at the end Nagi takes other maids to invade Oinky Doink. So instead of just going all out and shooting them, they put on a song, and Nagome decides to put on a song and dance for all the maids that are there. So they sit down, they listen to her dance. It's basically say, hey, this is what being a maid is all about. It's just shooting each other, violence, and shooting at each other. Isn't being a maid just serving their masters, making them happy, laughing, having a good time, And then Nagi ends up shooting her right here in the hip, but she still manages to sing and dance still. And when one of the maids starts applauding, Nagi shoots one maid, and then the one turns out the maid who killed Ronko shoots Nagi in the head, and then Yakugumishi, the panda, throws a sharpened bamboo stick right at her. And that's when the credits go. But after the credits, now we fast forward to the year 2018. The two guys who were fans of them from the beginning, now they're much older. They take this one guy that works with them to the new Oinky Doink Cafe to see their favorite maid, and that's still Nagome. So she's still working there after all these years. Now she's 36, much older, and now she's in a wheelchair. People ask her why she's in a wheelchair. Probably because where she got shot. I guess that's what ended up paralyzing her afterwards, or either because we see Nagi shoot more times at her, but we don't know if it hit her or not though. But whatever the case may be, she ended up in a wheelchair. But she still has that in good spirits of working there, despite being in a wheelchair. And we see her; she's much older now, being 36, and says, "Hey, welcome back, my cute masters." So, but yeah, overall, overall, I think Akiba Maid War, it was over the top, but it was fun though. I mean, I like the characters of Nagome, because the whole time she wanted to be this dream of being this maid, but she got thrown into this whole world of gangster violence, but asking, I was like, hey, is this what being a maid is all about? It's just shooting each other, right? Violence. isn't it all about just just serving their masters, making them happy, having a good time, laughing and all that stuff, and even making ketchup doodles on their omelets and stuff. Because that's what Ronco was happy, and then she ended up getting killed for that. So, but now that all that stuff is ended, now the fast forward in 2018, there's no more violence in Akiba now. Because even the two guys were taking the new guys like, hey, it's hard to believe there were violence back then. There was a lot of shooting back then. He's like, really, seriously? And the guy's like, one of the guys like, yeah, it's hard as soon as possible, does it? Yeah. So now the regulars still are visiting her, visiting the new Oinky Doink, and seeing the Gome as their favorite maid still after all these years. But yeah, it's a lot of over the top shooting, a lot of blood spread everywhere. I guess a lot of people will get a kick out of it, just seeing maids shooting each other with gun and carrying guns and all that stuff and just shooting each other. If that's what people, a lot of the guys want, you got that, seeing hot maids shooting each other. So, but especially I like the characters of Nagome and her friendship with Ronco, and especially she had the form of the sisterhood with Nerul, and she ended up getting killed. The manager, she's funny as well. She's basically useless in all this stuff, and caring about making money, but just being totally useless overall. But even the other characters like Shipion and Yomichi, and even Zoya as well. Even she got to enjoy the life of living as a maid as well. Because we see a flashback where she tried to be a maid, but then doing the fights and stuff. But she got to enjoy the beat was like to be living a maid. And also, we never get to see even the current present time in 2018. We never get to see what happened to all the other maids and the manager there as well. So we assume we assume they just left and went on their own lives. But for always to see like Nagomi's the only one that's still working there. So I always wonder whatever happened to the other maids there. So I guess they moved on. I guess so. But Akiba Maid War, and also with the opening was fun as well. I like the opening song as well, and the ending, the song at the ending was good as well. But I think that the song of the opening was good, was the best one. And I think the animation I thought was well done, and I think it's from the same studio. Who did this? What was the studio that did this? Give me a second. I know it because I know I was looking up. It was the same. It was the same studio that did the show Another. The horror show Another. Like Final Destination. The horror version, anime version of Final Destination Another. PA Works. That's what it is. PA Works. That's what did the animation. The studio that did the work for this. So yeah, it was the same studio that did for the series Another, which I enjoy that series. Like I said, it's like an anime horror version of Final Destination in a way. That was a good show. I think I did review that show, yeah, long ago. But Akiba Maid War was fun, and especially for an original anime series, I enjoyed it. Yeah, which I didn't know was an original upon originally watching it, because yeah, there's no light novels or manga. No, it's an original show. So, it was fun. Yep. So if you're into like seeing cute maids shooting each other, definitely the show for you. So yeah, so that's Akiba Maid Wars. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more for Anime Month, and we'll see you next time. Later.